XRP, huh? I bet you're wondering if it's going to make you rich or if it's all going to come crashing down.
Yeah, it's a big question everyone's asking, right? Will XRP really skyrocket like some people are saying?
I mean, you hear these crazy predictions thrown around.
And for anyone thinking about investing, it's like, where do you even begin to make sense of it all?
That's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're tackling XRP head on. You sent us this really in-depth report.
Oh yeah, the XRP future, Skyrocket or Fizzle report.
That's the one. We're going to break it all down.
We'll look at the different predictions out there.
And we'll try to figure out what's actually driving XRP's price.
Exactly. We're not here to give financial advice.
But we want to give you the information you need so you can make up your own mind about XRP.
So you can decide if it's the right investment for you.
Sounds good. So where do we start? What are the experts saying about where the price of XRP is headed?
Well, the predictions for XRP, especially in the short term, are all over the place. It's kind of wild, actually.
Yeah, I noticed that in the report. It's like 1 minute it's going to hit $70.
Right, and then the next it's plummeting to under $1.
It's enough to make your head spin.
And it really just shows you how much speculation there is in the market.
And how differently all these analysts are interpreting things.
Absolutely. I mean, look at that $70 prediction for 2025.
That's from eGrag Crypto, right?
Yeah, and it's a bold call. They're basing it on the idea that XRP's price moves in cycles.
Like history repeating itself, but in a big way.
Exactly. They're looking at past patterns and saying, well, this is how it's played out before.
So they're betting that the same thing will happen again, just on a much larger scale.
That's the gist of it. Whether it actually plays out that way, who knows?
Only time will tell.
But there are definitely a lot of people who are bullish on XRP, even if they don't see it hitting $70.
Yeah, there are plenty of analysts who are predicting more moderate growth.
Like around $10.
Right, and there's even that prediction for $4.35 by June 2025.
Oh, the one based on the symmetrical triangle pattern?
Yes. I was wondering what that was all about.
So, symmetrical triangles are a chart pattern that technical analysts use.
Technical analysis? That sounds complicated.
It's basically about looking for patterns in price charts.
To try and predict future price movements.
You got it. And this symmetrical triangle suggests that buying and selling pressure have been roughly equal lately.
Leading to consolidation in the price.
Right. But the idea is that this can't go on forever. Eventually, there's going to be a breakout.
And which way it breaks out depends on which force is stronger.
Exactly. And if it breaks out to the upside, that $4.35 target is based on the size of the triangle pattern.
It's all very geometric. But it's fascinating how much information people can extract from these charts.
It is, but you always have to remember that technical analysis isn't foolproof.
Right, it's not a crystal ball.
Definitely not. But it can be a useful tool, especially when you combine it with other types of analysis.
Speaking of other types of analysis, the report also talked about predictions that are, well, less optimistic.
Oh yeah, the more cautious or even bearish views.
Some analysts are saying that XRP could actually drop, potentially even to $1.93. That's a pretty big difference from $70.
A huge difference. And there are a few reasons why some analysts are feeling less confident about XRP.
Like what?
Well, one analyst, Dom, is saying that if XRP doesn't hold above $2.20, it could trigger a big sell-off.
And that could send the price down to $1.60.
That's his take. And then there's MMB Trader, who's predicting a crash to $1.50.
Ouch. What's their reasoning?
They're seeing a head and shoulders pattern forming on the chart.
Another technical analysis thing.
Yep. And head and shoulders patterns are often seen as a sign of a trend reversal.
So in this case, it would mean the upward trend is about to turn into a downward trend.
That's how they're interpreting it. But again, it's not an exact science.
Of course.
And then there's the neutral camp, the folks who think XRP might just trade sideways for a while.
Just bouncing around between $2.50 to 90 cents?
Exactly. Kind of like it's waiting for something to happen.
Some kind of catalyst to push it in one direction or the other.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding XRP.
You've got the whole SEC lawsuit situation, which we'll get into later.
Definitely. And the market is also constantly reacting to new technical indicators.
New data points that traders are using to try and get an edge.
It creates a really dynamic and unpredictable environment.
It does, but it's also what makes the crypto world so exciting. There's never a dull moment.
So, looking beyond 2025, what's the outlook for XRP in the medium term, say between 2026 and 2030?
Well, when you look further out, the predictions seem to converge a little bit.
Oh, really? So there's more agreement about the general direction?
A bit more.
That's interesting.
We see more analysts forecasting moderate growth.
Like in what range?
Somewhere between $3 and $5.
Okay.
It seems like a lot of analysts think XRP will steadily increase in value.
But not necessarily those massive price jumps we were talking about earlier.
Right. The focus shifts more toward long-term growth factors.
Rather than trying to time those short-term spikes and dips.
Exactly.
So are there still any analysts who are super bullish on XRP in this time frame?
Oh, for sure. There are those who believe XRP could reach $10 or even $20 by 2030.
Wow, so still some significant potential upside.
Absolutely. And the reasons behind these more optimistic predictions are often tied to XRP's utility.
Utility meaning its real-world uses.
Exactly. They're looking at things like wider adoption by financial institutions.
For cross-border payments.
Right. And the growing use of Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin.
As a kind of bridge asset between traditional finance and crypto.
Exactly. And some even think that a Ripple IPO could be on the horizon.
That would definitely increase mainstream awareness of XRP.
And potentially bring in a flood of new investment.
The report also talked about the potential of XRP in the remittance market.
Yes, remittances.
It sounded like that was a really big deal for XRP's future.
Well, think about it. Sending money across borders right now is a pain.
Slow, expensive, and a lot of hoops to jump through.
Exactly. But XRP could change all that.
Because it's so fast and the transaction fees are so low.
Exactly. And that makes it a really attractive option for remittances.
Which is a huge market, by the way.
Billion, if not trillion-dollar market.
So if XRP can capture even a small chunk of that,
it could have a big impact on its price.
Okay, and then things get really interesting when we look at the long-term predictions.
Long-term, meaning beyond 2030.
Yeah. That's where the numbers start to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Oh, yeah, the really outlandish predictions.
Like $100, $500, even $1,000 per XRP. It's almost hard to wrap your head around.
It is, but it's important to remember that long-term predictions are incredibly speculative.
Especially in the crypto world, where things change so rapidly.
Exactly. But these ultra-bullish scenarios are usually based on the idea of XRP achieving total dominance.
Dominance in what sense?
Like completely taking over global payments.
Replacing SWIFT entirely.
That's the dream for some XRP enthusiasts, but the reality is that it's a long shot.
Yeah, the report made that pretty clear. The market cap needed to hit those price targets would be insane.
Astronomically high.
And let's face it, there are so many variables at play.
New technologies emerging, regulatory changes, the list goes on and on.
So while those moonshot predictions are fun to think about,
it's probably best to keep your expectations grounded in reality.
Speaking of grounding in reality, you've mentioned technical analysis quite a bit.
Have I?
You have, and I think it would be helpful to explain it a bit more.
For folks who might not be familiar with it.
Yeah, because a lot of these predictions, especially the short-term ones, are based on technical analysis.
Okay, so technical analysis in a nutshell. It's all about studying historical price data.
Looking for patterns and trends.
Exactly, and using those patterns to try and predict future price movements.
So it's kind of like reading the tea leaves of the market.
In a way, yeah.
But there are specific tools and indicators that analysts use, right?
Oh, yeah, tons of them, like EMAs.
EMAs, what are those?
Exponential moving averages. They're used to smooth out price data.
To get a clearer picture of the overall trend.
Right, and then you've got the RSI.
Which stands for?
Relative Strength Index.
And that tells you
whether an asset is overbought or oversold.
So basically, if the prices move too far, too fast.
Exactly. And there's MACD, the moving average convergence divergence.
That one sounds a bit more complex.
It is a bit more nuanced. It helps analysts identify potential changes in the trend.
Like if a bullish trend is about to turn bearish.
Right, or vice versa.
And then there are the chart patterns we were talking about.
Like the symmetrical triangles and head and shoulders patterns.
Right, but those can be pretty subjective, can't they?
They can. Different analysts might interpret the same pattern in different ways.
So it's not an exact science.
Not at all.
But it can still provide valuable insights.
As long as you don't rely on it as your only source of information.
You've got to look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
So besides technical analysis, what other methods do analysts use to make these predictions?
Well, there's fundamental analysis, which is all about assessing the intrinsic value of an asset.
Intrinsic value meaning?
Like, what's it actually worth based on its underlying characteristics?
So looking at things like adoption rate.
Right. How widely is it being used?
The strength of its technology.
Is it actually solving a problem?
Partnerships.
Who's on board with this project?
And market sentiment.
What's the overall feeling about this asset in the market?
It's a much more holistic approach.
It is, and it can be a good counterbalance to the sometimes overly technical focus of chart analysis.
And the report also mentioned AI-driven models and sentiment analysis.
Oh, yeah, those are becoming increasingly popular as well.
AI, I can see how that would be useful for analyzing large amounts of data.
It's really good at identifying patterns that humans might miss.
And sentiment analysis, that's about gauging the overall mood of the market.
Right, looking at social media posts, news articles, things like that.
To get a sense of whether people are generally positive or negative about an asset.
Exactly. It's all about trying to get a comprehensive view.
Because as we've said, there's no single method that can predict the future with certainty.
Especially not in the crypto market where things can change so quickly.
Okay, so that gives us a pretty good overview of the price prediction landscape for XRP.
We've covered the bulls, the bears, and everyone in between.
Now let's talk about something that's been hanging over XRP for a long time, the SEC lawsuit.
Oh, yeah. That's been a major factor in XRP's journey.
Can you give us a quick rundown of what that was all about?
Sure. So the SEC filed a lawsuit against Ripple back in December 2020.
Right. And the SEC is the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission.
They're the main regulatory body for financial markets in the U.S.
And what were they accusing Ripple of?
They were alleging that Ripple had been selling XRP as an unregistered security.
And they claimed that Ripple had raised over $1.3 billion through these sales.
That's what the SEC was saying.
And that's a pretty serious accusation.
Yeah.
It could have had huge consequences for Ripple.
Absolutely. It created a lot of uncertainty in the market.
A lot of exchanges even delisted XRP because of it.
Right, because they didn't want to get caught up in any legal trouble.
So what happened with the lawsuit?
Well, there was a partial victory for Ripple in July 2023.
Partial meaning?
The court ruled that XRP itself isn't necessarily a security.
Especially when it's traded on the secondary market, like on exchanges.
Right. But they also said that Ripple's direct sales of XRP to institutional investors were a different story.
Because those sales weren't registered with the SEC.
Exactly. So it was a mixed ruling.
Not a complete win for either side.
Right. And both the SEC and Ripple initially planned to appeal parts of the ruling.
So it wasn't over yet?
No. But then, in March 2025, something interesting happened.
What's that?
The SEC dropped its appeal.
Really? Just like that?
Yep. And then Ripple withdrew its cross appeal as well.
So the whole thing was settled?
Pretty much.
Wow. That must have been a huge relief for Ripple, and probably for a lot of XRP holders too.
Definitely. It removed a big cloud of uncertainty that had been hanging over them.
But while the lawsuit was going on, it definitely caused a lot of disruption.
Oh, yeah. It impacted XRP's price, its trading volume.
And like we said, it led to some exchanges delisting it.
And it probably scared off some potential investors, too.
Because who wants to invest in something that might be deemed illegal?
Exactly. But now that it's resolved, we're likely to see some positive effects.
Reports seem pretty optimistic about that.
Yeah, with the legal uncertainty gone, it's likely that more exchanges will relist XRP.
Which would make it easier to buy and sell.
Exactly. And we could also see more institutional investors getting involved.
Now that there's more regulatory clarity.
Exactly. And that could lead to wider adoption of XRP.
Which, in theory, should drive up the price.
That's the hope, anyway. And Ripple itself is pretty happy about how things turned out.
Well, yeah, I bet they are. What are they saying about it?
Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, called it a resounding victory.
I bet he did. He said it was a win not just for Ripple, but for the whole crypto industry.
Yeah, he argued that it provided much-needed regulatory clarity.
And that it could set a precedent for how other cryptocurrencies are treated under U.S. law.
Exactly. But of course, U.S. law isn't the only thing that matters.
Right, because crypto is global.
And there are still regulatory hurdles in other parts of the world.
So it's not like everything is smooth sailing from here on out.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so the legal battle in the U.S. seems to be mostly settled.
For now, at least.
Now let's talk about XRP's actual use cases.
Right. Let's get into the real-world stuff.
Who's actually using XRP, and how does that affect its value?
Well, the report talks a lot about Ripple's partnerships with financial institutions.
Through RippleNet, their global network.
Right, and there are a lot of these partnerships, over 300, according to the report.
Wow, that's a lot of banks and financial institutions using Ripple's technology.
It is, but there's a crucial distinction here. Oh, not all of these partners are actively using XRP itself.
Wait, what do you mean? So they're using RippleNet, but not necessarily XRP?
Exactly. Many of them are using it for messaging and settlement.
What does it mean?
It's basically about streamlining communication between banks.
So they can process transactions more efficiently.
Right. But they're not actually using XRP as a bridge currency to move money.
I see. So it's like They're using Ripple's technology to improve their existing systems.
Exactly.
But they're not fully embracing the XRP ecosystem.
Not yet, anyway. But there are some institutions that are using XRP.
Through ODL, on-demand liquidity.
Right, and that's where things get really interesting for XRP's future.
Because that's where it's actually being used as intended.
For fast, low-cost, cross-border payments.
So how widespread is ODL adoption right now?
It's growing, but still has a way to go. But the more institutions that start using it,
The higher the demand for XRP.
Exactly.
So which institutions are already using ODL?
Well, some of the big ones include SBI Remit in Japan.
They're a major player in remittances, right?
Yes, they are. And there's Banco Rendimento in Brazil.
And Bitso, the crypto exchange in Latin America.
Right. And even the Bank of Japan has been exploring XRP technology.
Wow, that's pretty big. Any others?
Frankenmuth Credit Union in the U.S. allows its customers to buy and sell XRP directly.
Interesting.
And the Commonwealth Bank of Australia has been experimenting with it.
So there's definitely some real-world usage happening.
Definitely.
And with the SEC lawsuit resolved in the U.S., it seems like that could open the doors for more adoption.
Yeah, now that there's less regulatory uncertainty.
And if spot XRP ETFs get approved, that could be huge too.
It would make it much easier for institutional investors to get involved.
And Ripple is constantly working on securing new partnerships.
Especially in regions with a lot of cross-border payment activity.
So it sounds like there's a lot of potential for growth on that front.
Definitely. But it's not just about traditional finance anymore.
What do you mean?
The XRP ledger and the ecosystem around it are evolving.
Oh yeah, the report mentioned some interesting developments there.
There's this whole move beyond just payments.
Like what?
Well, there's this new partnership between Ripple and Unicambio in Portugal.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
It's about offering instant cross-border payments between Portugal and Brazil.
Exactly. And it's a significant step for Ripple.
Because it gives them a foothold in the Portuguese market.
Exactly. And then there are all the technological advancements happening on the XRP ledger itself.
Like the native lending protocols.
Yeah, that's coming in Q3 2025.
And that will allow for decentralized lending and borrowing directly on the XRP ledger.
Right, opening up a whole new world of DeFi possibilities.
DeFi, that's decentralized finance, right?
Yep, basically finance without intermediaries like banks.
Very interesting. What else is in the works?
There's the EVM sidechain.
EVM, that's the Ethereum virtual machine.
That's the one. It's basically the technology that powers smart contracts on Ethereum.
Smart contracts, those are like self-executing agreements, right?
Yeah, exactly. And having an EVM sidechain means that developers who are already building on Ethereum
Can easily port their applications over to the XRP ledger.
which could bring a ton of new functionality and use cases to the ecosystem.
That's huge. It could really expand XRP's reach beyond just payments.
Exactly. And then there's Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD.
Which launched in December 2024.
Yep. And it's already gained a lot of traction.
A market cap of $170 million in just 4 months is pretty impressive.
It is, and stablecoins are becoming increasingly important in the crypto world.
Because they provide stability and reduce volatility.
Exactly. And having a native stablecoin on the XRP ledger just makes it more versatile.
So lots of exciting developments happening on the technology front.
Definitely. And don't forget, the XRP ledger is already highly scalable,
Capable of handling a massive amount of transactions.
which is crucial if it's going to be a serious player in the global payments market.
Okay, now let's step back a bit and talk about XRP's history.
Right. Let's get some context.
Because it's been around for a while, right?
Longer than a lot of people realize, the idea actually goes back to 2004.
Wow, really?
Yeah, there was this guy named John Fugger who created something called RipplePay.
RipplePay, what was that?
It was a decentralized credit network, kind of a precursor to what Ripple is today.
Interesting. So when did Ripple as we know it come about?
In 2012, Jed McCaleb and Chris Larson founded Ripple Labs.
And they took that initial idea of RipplePay and ran with it.
Exactly. They created XRP and started building the XRP ledger.
And from the start, their focus was on working with financial institutions.
Yeah, they wanted to disrupt the traditional cross-border payments system.
Which was, and still is, dominated by SWIFT.
Right. And one of the key things they did was pre-mine 100 billion XRP tokens.
Pre-mine meaning.
They created all of the XRP that would ever exist up front.
Instead of having it mined over time like Bitcoin.
Exactly. And they gave 80 billion of those tokens to the company itself.
To help fund development and encourage adoption. Okay, so XRP has a pretty long and interesting history.
It does, and it's evolved a lot over the years.
But what about the technology itself? What makes XRP unique compared to other cryptocurrencies?
Well, one of the biggest things is its speed.
It's fast, I've heard that.
Transactions typically settle in just 3 to 5 seconds.
That's way faster than Bitcoin or Ethereum.
And much faster than traditional bank transfers, which can take days.
That's pretty remarkable.
It is, and it's one of the key reasons why XRP is so attractive for cross-border payments.
Because time is money, especially in finance.
Exactly. And then there are the transaction fees.
Which are incredibly low.
Usually just a fraction of a cent.
That's amazing. How do they keep the fees so low?
Well, the XRP ledger uses a different consensus mechanism than Bitcoin or Ethereum.
It's called the Ripple Protocol Consensus Algorithm, or RPCA.
Right, and it's much more energy efficient.
So that helps keep costs down.
Exactly. And RPCA also allows the XRP ledger to be highly scalable.
Meaning it can handle a lot of transactions per second.
Right. It can process something like 1,500 to 3,400 transactions per second.
That's pretty impressive.
It is, and it's another reason why XRP is seen as a viable alternative to SWIFT.
Okay, so XRP is fast, cheap, energy efficient, and scalable.
Sounds like the perfect cryptocurrency.
Well, almost. It does have its critics.
Oh yeah, there are always trade-offs in technology.
And what are some of the criticisms leveled at XRP?
One of the biggest ones is the level of centralization.
Centralization. That's not usually a good thing in the crypto world, is it?
Not really. Most cryptocurrencies strive to be as decentralized as possible.
But XRP is different.
To some extent, yeah.
How so?
Well, the number of validators on the XRP ledger is relatively small.
Validators? Those are the ones who verify transactions, right?
Exactly. And with a smaller number of validators, there's a greater risk of collusion.
Meaning they could potentially work together to manipulate the network.
Theoretically, yes. And then there's the fact that Ripple Labs still holds a large chunk of the XRP supply.
Like those 80 billion tokens they kept back in the beginning.
Exactly. And that gives them a lot of influence over the ecosystem.
Which some people see as a problem.
Yeah, they argue that it goes against the decentralized ethos of crypto.
I see. So while XRP has a lot of technological strengths,
there are also valid concerns about its level of control.
It's a complex picture.
It is. And we also need to remember that RippleNet, the network itself,
doesn't necessarily require the use of XRP.
Right. As we discussed earlier, a lot of institutions are using it just for messaging and settlement.
Without actually touching XRP.
Exactly. So for XRP to really take off, it needs to be more than just a technological solution.
It needs to be an integral part of the payments process.
Right. And that's where ODL comes in.
That's the key to its long-term success.
Exactly. If ODL adoption takes off,
then the demand for XRP will skyrocket.
Which is what a lot of investors are hoping for.
So how does XRP stack up against its competitors?
Well, there are other cryptocurrencies that are trying to do similar things.
Like which ones?
Stellar is a good example.
Stellar, I've heard of that. What's their deal?
They're focused on fast and low-cost international transfers as well.
So pretty similar to XRP.
In many ways, yes. But they have a stronger emphasis on financial inclusion.
Meaning making financial services accessible to everyone, even those without traditional bank accounts.
Exactly.
Interesting. Any others?
There's Hedera, which is known for its speed and security.
And they're targeting more enterprise-level applications.
Right. And Algorand is another one that's gaining traction in DeFi and NFTs.
But they also have payment capabilities.
They do, but their focus is broader than just payments.
Okay, so XRP has some serious competition in the crypto world.
Definitely. And then there's the elephant in the room. SWIFT.
SWIFT, the global interbank messaging system.
The one that's been around for decades.
And still dominates cross-border payments.
It does, and it has a huge network and a lot of trust behind it.
So it's not going to be easy to displace.
No, but that's the goal that Ripple has set for itself.
To create a faster, cheaper, and more efficient alternative to SWIFT.
Exactly.
So to sum it all up.
What are XRP's chances?
Yeah, what are its strengths and weaknesses in this crowded market?
Well, its main strengths are definitely its speed and low transaction costs.
Which makes it ideal for cross-border payments.